I welcome you to the audio program of this book, Why Sex is Food. I am the author, PIENS, and I'm gonna read out the book to you for you to enjoy it, for you to understand what sex is all about, why sex is food. Alright, so I hope you're gonna enjoy it. Why Sex is Food by PIENS. This book is a go-to recipe in understanding the purpose and pleasure of sex while describing its food nature. Introduction. There are few topics that arouse human curiosity as sex. The biological continuity of human species hinges on it, and it is a nature that is engraved in our beings, so we can't get rid of it. The feeling, the desire, the act, and everything that pertains to it always give us unique experience that we're never tired of, pretty much like food. But why is this so? Why do we always have to look for food just the way we always have to look for sex? The answer is in the purpose, and it is well outlined in the pages of this book. Food is designed to bond man to the environment, just as sex is designed to bond male to the female. We don't only eat food, we eat sex. We don't only cook food, we cook sex. And again, we don't only feel hungry for food, we also feel hungry for sex. Why Sex is Food? It's a book that outlines the unconventional ways of understanding sex while describing its food nature. The feeling of sex is the most strongest of all human feelings, and for years, human beings have not been able to crack this code of fully mastering this aspect of their nature. There has been many accounts on how this area has been mismanaged, especially by popular figures, but it is impossible to suppress this part of human nature, but only to learn how to channel it in the right direction. When we understand why sex is food, we will understand why we can't let go of the desire, the feeling, and the heart. We will understand why nothing can replace sex, just as the way nothing can replace food. But we will only keep getting better at it, you see, as our level of knowledge and education increases in the subject. For many of us, sex is what represents one of the most intimate part of our relationships, and it keeps us bonded and connected. Conversely, problems in this area has also caused increased rate of divorce and infidelity in marriages, and has so increased number of broken homes and criminality in our society. This book seeks to throw more light into dark areas concerning sex and solve practical problems in understanding the nature of sex and its purpose. End of introduction. By the author. PIENS, May 2021. Chapter 1. Sex and Food. Let's start by understanding what sex is. I know you've heard it and spoken the word countless times, but for the sake of this book, let's reiterate the definition of sex. Depending on the context in which you're discussing it, sex in dictionary has got a couple of meanings. One is a sexual activity, including specifically sexual intercourse involving two or more partners. Another one is either of the two main categories, male and female, into which humans and most other living things are divided on the basis of their reproductive functions. From these definitions, we understand that sex is not only limited to intercourse. If we were to look at it in a more holistic way, we can have a better definition that will connect the two definitions. Alright, so let's define sex as everything that connects male and the female, and everything that differentiates male from the female. Okay, so sex is what connects and what differentiates. Alright, let's start with what connects. First, sex connects male with the female. The number one thing every male wants to have with the female is sex. This doesn't mean male doesn't have any other thing, but sex tops the list, as you're gonna see the reason in the course of this book. Sex brings male and female together, perhaps with the nature of male, he would have forgotten about female long time ago, if not for sex. Okay, so you can pretty much think about that. Sex reminds the male that the female still exists and always bring him back to her. As casual and primitive this may sound, it works and is the origin of all human relationships. Okay, we've seen that a couple of times. I mean, this is what happened among us practically all the time. Alright, now many people think sex is just an act that has nothing to do with our makeup and origin, but sex is everything that we are. Virtually all of us came from this singular act. See, when your parents have sexual intercourse, so they eventually conceive you and you're born. Okay, so and it's because sex always brings the male and female together. This is an act that can't be done in absentia. Both parties have to be present to have intercourse, and it is that intercourse that will give rise to a productive offspring that will carry on human traits and exploit on earth. The second aspect of sex is it is what differentiates the male from the female. Sex makes the male different from the female, and that is what builds the attraction. The male is attracted to what he doesn't have in the female, and the female is attracted to what she doesn't have in the male. This happens every time. Take for instance, the male is attracted to the female breast and buttocks. Okay, so if you're a man, you go on the street, you see a woman, you're gonna look at her breast, you're gonna look at her buttocks. I'm sure that's even it's an innate response. You see, it is inherent in us. It's a nature. So because he doesn't have any of those features, he doesn't have like she does. He doesn't have breast and buttocks like she does. Okay, then these two structures are packed with fat that make her look attractive. See, is the way they are packaged that make the male, the guy, that man, to be so attracted to her, to what he is seeing. Okay, and he's also attracted to the fact that she's got soft skin and voice, very sweet voice. Hello, gentle kind of voice that women express, and the men are always attracted to. So he's also attracted to the soft skin and voice that she has, but he doesn't have. Okay, the female in turn is attracted to the male's body voice, bold voice, and thick skin because she doesn't have, and she's also attracted to his broad chest and huge body structure because she doesn't have as well. You see, when you've asked women what do they want in men or what do they like in men, so some women will tell you, in fact most women will tell you, I like a tall, handsome looking man. You see, describing physical masculinity, physical structure, because of protection, because women need protection, women want protection, so they desire men with huge physical structure that can protect them, right? Because she doesn't have that, so she's attracted to that in the male, right? Okay, so needless to say, both are attracted to their genitals, right? The male craves day and night the female vagina and always desires to put his penis inside of it as many times as he can. The female is no exception. She also craves his penis and wishes to have it tickle her clitoris and her erogenous zones for maximum pleasure. Gone are those days when women feel ashamed about their sexual interest and desire. These days, women are no longer shy about their sexual interest, but now they can come boldly to men and ask for what they want sexually, right? Which is pretty much good, So there's no point trying to be ashamed or feel shy about your sexual nature. This is nature. We can cover it up. You see. So the more we express it, the more we manifest our human nature, and the more we are fulfilled on earth. Very important. Okay, so before, less than 25% of women actually have orgasm when they have sex, but now the percentage is increasing, and more women are voicing out about their sexual dissatisfaction, which is pretty more important. Why before men think women don't need sexual satisfaction and sex should only be for reproduction. But now we understand that sex has many purposes beyond reproduction. Just like before, people thought that the mouth is only for eating food. You see, then that time people think, oh, mouth just for eating food, for survival. Just put something in your mouth and then, you're going to survive. But now we understand that the mouth has got more important functions. You see, very important, like for communication, speech, for breathing, for non-verbal expressions, right? Very important. And sex has purposes beyond reproduction. See, pleasure is part of it. Pleasure is an important feeling of life, and every human being craves pleasure. You see, sexual pleasure is the most powerful pleasure of all human pleasures. And human beings will always want to have it as much as they can. So with the hormonal factor and other biological differences, the male craves sex more than the female. And this is important because the male is a carrier of the seeds. He has to bring the seeds to the female and plant inside her womb to fertilize the eggs. Alright? The eggs are not as mobile as the sperms and can't move far distance. But the sperms can run long distance and go meet the eggs in the fallopian tube. So this describes and illustrates what happens in real life. See, just the way male go after the female are more or less try to stay on their own, be on their own, go on their own until the young man go meet the young woman. You see, go ask her out, go date her. You see, so the same way too we have in real life, the same way the sperm chase the egg, that's the same way to the male chase the female for intercourse, while the female becomes receptive of the male's gift. Alright? Sex is an important differentiating factor, and because of these differences that sex has brought between male and female, attraction is set up between two of them. These differences build attraction between male and female, and it is this attraction that ends the journey in sex. You see, know that there can be sex if there is no attraction, and there can be attraction if there are no differences. Very important concept. It is a principle. It is differences that establish attraction, and it is attraction that fosters sexual attraction, and then eventually lead to sex. You see, so it goes like that in that order. So the beginning of the journey to intercourse always starts with establishing the differences between male and female, which lead to attraction and eventually end in intercourse. All of these are summarized as sex. So sex is not only the act, but also the being, the male and female, as we saw in the definition. That is why we could say sex is both male and female, and at the same time also say sex is what happens between the male and female. Alright, so let's look at the subject of food. Let's take a moment and look at food before we go back to sex. Food, as we know it, is what we eat every day, if not every time. It is what we cannot do without, because it is essential for our living. We cannot live without food. Science told us that the maximum days that we can stay without food is only 10 to 20 days. Okay, so sometimes it can be more than that, sometimes it can be less than that. Some people have actually stayed without food up to 40 days now. So depending on the individual's capacity. Okay, so after which the entire body will get breakdown, and then the person can die of starvation, right? Even at times when we are not eating, our body is still making use of food already stored in our body, and there's no second that passed that our body is not making use of food. So food is converted to energy by different metabolic processes, and that energy is used to run important activities throughout our body, like the beating of our heart, there's the heart breathing, the breathing of our lungs, the brain function, the movement, the secretions, and other important functions in our body, right? Times when we stay without eating food from exogenous supply, our body is making use of the endogenous supply. So there are basically two major ways food is supplied to the body. the endogenous, which is the one already stored in your body, and the exogenous, that's the one that you're taking from the food that you're eating occasionally. Okay, but every time your body is making use of food, that's very important, which is keeping our system running every time. So there's no time when we stay without food. Be that as may, we don't have all the food that we will need till we die in our body. We must always get food from the environment. Anytime we are hungry and our body needs some replenishment, you see, is it possible to put all the food that we will eat, that we will ever need till we die inside our body? Absolutely no. We don't have that system, and there's no human technology that has built such system yet. But of course, we can create a good storage system that's outside our body and reserve for ourselves in the environment, but not inside our body. Okay, so the bottom line is that we will always need to put food inside our body. We will always need to eat. But why is this so? And why is it connected to sex? Okay, so we'll see that in a moment. Now, first, let's look at why we will always need food from our environment. Now, this is because there's connection between us and the environment, and we cannot be separated from it. The air that we breathe in is from the environment, and we will always need this air to be alive. Hardly can we close our nose and stay without air for just 5 minutes. We will almost suffocate to death. What about the water that we drink and use for other purposes? We cannot do without it. Over 60% of our body weight is water, and many other elements such as the soil, minerals, microorganisms, and climatic factors in our environment all contribute to our living and survival. You see, and so all of these show that we cannot be separated from our environment. So our environment is, as it were, is a continuous part of us. That's why any disease in our environment could easily affect us, because we are in continuous contact with it. See, the air that we breathe in, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the soil that our feet touch, the weather of the place where we live, and so on, all affect our health and survival. However, absence or inadequacies of any of these could easily affect us and become threats to our existence. Just as we've seen how important our environment is to our living and survival, so is also sex. We continuously want sex because it is critical for our survival. It is not just the feeling, it is not just the pleasure, it is what keeps us alive as human beings and as a species. We cannot be separated from it. Men cannot be separated from women, and women cannot be separated from men. Sex keeps us alive, you see, and together makes us valuable as human beings in our relationships, and value our relationships. When you see men who are so crazy about sex and could almost do anything for it, know that it is not just that they want pleasure, even though that could be an obvious reason, but they want to fulfill the nature of the law of nature as well. Nonetheless, every energy must be channeled to the right cause if we want it to be productive. A fire misdirected to the wrong cause could burn a house and burn a food, but that same fire could eat a house during winter and of course cooking nice food. It is not enough to have the craving and desire for sex. We must know why it is important for our survival and why it is what keeps us alive and together as humanity. Very important. Okay, so why sex is food? How sex is food? Before we go to why sex is food, let's look at how sex is food. Now, there's a difference between the two. Why tells us the reason, tells us the reasons of something. How tells us the process or what is involved. So let's look at how sex is food. Having analyzed sex and food separately, now we want to look at how both are the same, or rather, how both could be compared and counted as similar. Sex comes to us naturally, just as food. It is built in us. We crave it, we desire it, and we are never tired of it. Oh yeah, we can be satisfied of it for a moment, but not tired of it. Otherwise, we are not normal. What keeps us healthy and alive is energy. We get energy from food and sex. That will be discussed much later in this book. Sex keeps us alive as a species. Food keeps us alive as as also a species. You see, the journey of sex started when the first male and female were made and had to live and grow together. As they began to live and grow together, they found what connects both of them and differentiate each of them. Eventually they arrive at sex. Because sex is innate and instinctive, the male and female found a treasure within and without themselves. See, it's not what somebody will tell you. You just know that by yourself. Just begin to have the feelings and the desire. So they had intercourse, and for the first time, another human being was reproduced. What brought another human being into existence was what connected the male with the female together. You see, very important. Whenever there is need for connection and sometimes conception, sex is brought into the picture. And since there's need for connection every time, love and affection, sex becomes indispensable and what we have to eat all the time to stay alive. This is how sex is food. It is both direct and metaphorical, and it is what we eat every time and anytime, and what keeps us healthy and alive. Chapter 2. Why sex is food. Having discussed the correlation between sex and food and how sex is food, let's now proceed to why sex is food. You remember our definition of sex, that it is not only limited to intercourse or male and female status, but everything that connects and differentiates male and female. As we bear that in mind, most of our discussion on sex will center on intercourse, as that's what interests most of us. You see, so we're going to focus more on the intercourse and sexual aspect of sex, if you can put it that way, right? So for a long time, many of us have been kept in the dark about sex, on the issue pertaining to sex. It is a subject that's hardly brought to open discussion, especially where they are minors, and many claim this could be inappropriate or abuse their minds. You see, that's mostly parents, or they say, then let's talk about sex because children are here, because the children hear things like this, they're still young, let's not corrupt and pollute their minds. Okay, so but why this excuse might be plausible enough to keep young minds in the dark, but just for a while, it has also raised their curiosity towards knowing and understanding everything about sex, everything that pertains to it. So this has made many of them to go on sexual escapades and adventures that have defeated societal values and cultures. You see, for this is human nature, and there's no human tactics or gimmicks that can cover it up. Very important. And when we understand why sex is food, we will be able to understand why we have such a strong sexual feeling and why we would not be able to live without it. What makes sex so indispensable is the same reason that makes food so indispensable, or what we cannot do without. Many of us can be comfortable doing whatever we are doing until we begin to feel hungry. And that is when everything about our system yearns for what to eat, and we will start looking for food. If we don't have the mind of fasting, in which case, if we do, we will still break the fast and find something to eat. We've got to find something to eat. You see, at first, the feeling might be mild, giving us some time to find what to eat, look for what to eat. The feeling always builds up. But if you're not able to find what you're going to eat, then the feeling gets stronger and stronger until you let it subside and the cycle repeats itself. Okay, probably you've had this feeling a couple of times, maybe when you're doing something and or you're somewhere you can't directly have access to food, but you want to eat anyway. So why the desire for food is building up, that hunger is building up gradually for you to look for where you're going to get food. So during this period, what's going to happen in your body is like your body is already exhausted of its energy stores, and it is now breaking down its proteins for energy. The more the time is prolonged, the more essential nutrients are used up for energy, and the body muscles begin to waste away. So if food is still not supplied, your body, and of course the person, you, could die of starvation when the body system breaks down for lack of food, for lack of energy and nutrients. Now from these, we could see how essential and indispensable food is. To put things in perspective, let's replace food with sex and see how realistic this could be. We know we need food to survive, right? We need to eat food to survive. Yeah, pretty sure. Okay, so but do we also need sex to survive as well? Don't we have alternative or something better we can replace with sex? As the definition explains, sex is what connects us and differentiates us. So it is not separated and cannot be separated from us. On the very basic of it, Maslow's hierarchy of human needs puts sex as part of the basic physiologic human needs, the same level with food, water, and air that we breathe in. Even though it's sexual intercourse it was talking about, sex on a broader view, as we've established, is what we, both male and female, are all about. It is one factor that affects every other factor. For instance, the female's appetite for food is different from that of male, simply because of their sex. See, the female has different feelings, behaviors, outlook, and even body. All of these happen because of sex, right? Yeah, just like we said, the differences, what differentiates the male and female sex. Sex hormones play a huge role in many of these sexual differences, and our world will only get better when we continue to understand and appreciate these sexual differences and why they are important for our existence. Sex originates from the fact that man or humanity needs to exist in two bodily forms, male and female. So man, which is essentially a generic term, so needs to be in two bodily forms, male and female. And because of these, there will be need for male and female to form another man. Every living thing that goes through sexual reproduction has this structure, male and female components. There are other living things that undergo asexual reproduction and do not need any male and female component to reproduce. But reproduction in man requires both male and female. You see, and that is what brings about sexual intercourse. So when we understand it, we understand in biology that there are two basic types of reproduction. There are sexual and asexual reproduction. And we know in asexual reproduction, there's no need for two components. It's only one that can, reproduce. Only one is required to reproduce, and it has both the male and female components, or it doesn't even need anything male and female component. So it can multiply, it can reproduce on its own. So we see that in plants, in some bacteria, and some other organisms. But sexual reproduction, we always require both male and female components. Very important. So that is what brings about the sexual concept, because if male and female will be required for reproduction, then something must always connect them together. That's what this book has been establishing, I've been sharing with you, right? So now, the sexual intercourse does not only focus on conception, but also connection. The need for male and female to always come together and share love and feelings. These are forces that drive human actions and behaviors on earth. And this is more reason why anything about sex makes humans tick and make them want to know more about it. Yeah, you can see that naturally in us. There's just that natural curiosity. Just want to know about it. Want to know about sex. Want to know what's going on with sex. You want to have it. You want to do it. You want to know it. Everything about it. The indispensability of sex has made its influence so strong on us, and why we will always need to live, enjoy, and multiply a happy life. Okay, why we always need sex to live and enjoy and multiply a happy life. So in the subsequent chapters, we're going to look and discuss extensively the factors that delineate why sex is food. Alright, so chapter 3, feeling. Feeling can make us to easily understand why sex is food. We know we have feelings every time. I mean, whether we put our mind to it or not, we feel happy, sad, tired, surprised, relaxed, cool, afraid, angry, disturbed, worried, anxious, calm, remorse, embarrassed, encouraged, impressed, depressed, and so on. We have both negative and positive feelings. In as much as we can control our feelings and try to manage them, we cannot eliminate them. They are with us every time. And the only thing we can do is to acknowledge and appreciate them, because there's no point of eliminating them, but there's a reason why they are there. You see, the feeling connects us to both our internal and external worlds. We know what is going on within us when we have certain feelings, and we appreciate what other people are going through as well when they tell us how they feel. You see, you've experienced this every time. We experience it every time. Though sometimes we may not feel comfortable sharing some of our feelings. Yes, be like this concept of sex we are talking about. Sometimes some people don't even want to share their sexual feelings, maybe towards your crush or towards their partner or their dates. So some people just hide their sexual feelings. You don't want to talk about it. Sometimes some think, it's going overboard, or it's just being sexually obsessive or promiscuous or all kinds of things, right? So, but these are just natural feelings that we got to express and let people just know how we feel. You see, it's not just like you cannot control. It's not just that you lose or you cannot control yourself. It's just telling you your ability to have these feelings. You see, very important, your ability to have these feelings and be able to express them. You see, so there's nothing to be ashamed or to be afraid about expressing your sexual feelings. As a matter of fact, there's nothing bad about it. You see, so you should be able to express your sexual feelings, but of course, like I mentioned earlier, that your ability to be able to manage those feelings, to be able to acknowledge and appreciate those feelings and know how to channel them. You see, that is what is important. That's what we should be taught. And that's what this book seeks to share with you, to explain to you, right? So, though sometimes we may not feel comfortable sharing some of our feelings, they are still what makes us humans. You see, they are what makes us animate and enjoy life. Life will be so boring without feelings. Yeah, of course. Have you ever thought of life without feelings? Imagine you don't know when you're happy or tired or pleased or worried. Perhaps you could just go all day without giving attention to your body, its feelings and your essential needs. Needless to say that the two top most important feelings, hunger and sex, will be out of place, and anyone could easily die of starvation, and our human generation will have eventually been wiped out because of no reproduction. And because we cannot have these feelings of hunger and sex. You see that? So our feelings could be so subtle that we hardly notice them, but they have huge impact on us, on our nature and personality. Sometimes the obvious ones are expressed on a massive scale that they hand us some of the results that we have in life. For instance, when we feel afraid, we take some actions. And when we also feel happy or excited, we also take some actions. Our feelings affect our decisions and thought process. And depending on how we feel and can control our feelings, our reasons and judgments could be affected, and the quality of our decisions and the results that we get in life. The feeling of sex and food are so unique. In a normal condition, we're never tired of them. You see, we're never tired of having sex or eating food. We can be satisfied at the moment, but never tired of them. We can eat food now and be well satisfied, only to wake up the following morning and then we feel hungry, and we feel like we've never eaten before. And the satisfaction we felt yesterday was just gonna be now something imaginary, like something you're just thinking about, like something like just dreaming about, as if it didn't happen, right? Because the fact that you had and you were so full yesterday that you almost thinking of going to the toilet or vomiting or just letting out the food, you felt so full and all that. But today, right now, you're just feeling hungry again. You see, because it's nature. It's nature. So the same thing goes for sex, okay? The same thing goes for sex. We can have sex 5 to 10 times, in a day, and the following day we're still craving more. We're still craving another round. You see? So though sometimes appetite fluctuates with time and situations, but the desire and feelings never go away. It is inherent in us. And then when we look at factors that affect appetite, like, okay, what about old age? It doesn't affect your feeling. Yeah, it can affect your appetite and make you feel maybe more have more craving for sex or not, depending on many factors, because they're affected by many factors. Appetite is affected by external factors, while feeling is affected by internal factors. So since the feeling of sex and food are inherent in us, we can hardly get rid of them. You see, when we are hungry for food, we look for food by all means. When we are hungry for sex, we also look for sex by all means. If you wonder why an average man will pay any amount to have sex, it's because he's hungry for it and will only feel satisfied after he has had it. Some people cover up their feelings about sex. You see, they cover up their feelings about sex only to end up taking wrong decisions because they've not understood how powerful it is. The feeling can only be covered up, but just for a while. Anyway, it will still manifest itself because it is not meant to be covered up, but to be expressed and appreciated. The increased cases of rape and sexual abuse are evidences of mismanaged sexual feelings. Many think they can ignore or downplay their sexual feelings, only to find themselves in a situation of abusing other people sexually. The subject of sex is the type that we must give attention to carefully and sincerely, that to seek and understand why we behave the way we do and why we cannot do without them. Very important. The feeling of sex starts as early as birth. As a matter of fact, the first part of the body that draws the baby's attention and always being curious to know about is the genitals. Yeah, maybe you've seen that with children, how they do what we call playing doctor. They play doctor. They touch their genitals, right? Their sexual organs, external sexual organs. The baby, as soon as they can talk and recognize things, began to ask the mother, everyone around him, what his sexual organs are used for. It must be that he is having strange feelings, totally different from the rest part of the body, whenever he touches or thinks about it. You see that? So even right from while we are born, the feeling has been engraved in us. So this feeling and curiosity is what we carried on to adolescence and adulthood. And if we are in an environment that doesn't allow easy discussion about sex matters, then we find ourselves alone, struggling and figuring out our sexual issues and problems. Many kids only actually discuss with their parents what they are going through sexually and how they feel. In fact, many could not even discuss with their parents. Many of these kids, they cannot even discuss with their parents what they are going through sexually. You see, and there could be 3 reasons for this. Let's look at 3 reasons for this. The first reason is these parents, they know their parents, these children know that their parents don't give any room for such discussion. Even though some of the parents might be interested or they care about sexual matters or they didn't just find it pleasant to talk about, to discuss with their children, right? The second reason could be that there's some parents that don't care. They just don't care about it. They don't mind whatever happens to their children and their, with their sexual life. They don't care if they have sexual feelings or not. The third reason can be that some parents take things too seriously and religiously, that they don't even allow the children to express themselves. They cover everything up under the cloak of religion and morality, right? So, but this doesn't help children, because you've got to discuss it. This is nature. You don't tell them to not, to practice abstinence. practice abstinence. No, you give them comprehensive sexual education. That's how to do it, not to tell them to do abstinence. Because the more parents are telling the children to do abstinence, the more they are drawn into sexual affairs, into sexual relationships. The more they are getting tempted to have sex, because you're telling them about abstinence, you see. But rather give them complete, comprehensive sexual education. That's going to help them. We're going to see some of it in the rest part of the book. So many children, however, when they leave their parent custody and stay on their own, they go overboard in finding answers to all these mystical sex questions. Okay? And in that quest, they engage in many sexual escapades and give themselves to sexual frivolities. So this comes as a revenge to the parents for keeping them for so long in the dark about sexual matters, right? But only if we understand how important this subject of sex is. That's when we understand its value. That's when we value its education and be willing to share with anyone, including our children. Very important. Sexual feeling makes us crave for sex. Hunger feeling makes us crave for food. And the feelings are what drive us to preserve ourselves as a species and as individuals on earth. As a matter of fact, these feelings are so connected that as we feel satisfied for one, we crave another. For instance, we feel like having sex after eating food, and we feel like eating after having sex. You see, if you notice that most times you after having sex you just have this craving for food, and just after eating food maybe you go on outing with your date or with your crush. You just feel that desire again to have sex after eating food. And in that very moment when there's love in the air, we eat sex as food and eat food as sex. The two are intertwined and interchanged. And because of how indispensable sexual feeling is, pretty much like food, we appreciate why sex is food. Chapter 4. Purpose. In this chapter, we will understand and consider one of the most important aspects of sex and food: purpose. Have you ever found out that the reason why we have sex and why it was made in the first place? Knowing the purpose of sex is one of the ways in which we can know why sex is food. In the previous chapter, we understand the impact of feelings in sex and food and how both are tightly connected. In this chapter, we want to look at the purpose. We want to understand the purpose of sex. Okay? So why do we need sex, and why do we need food, and what they are meant to achieve? Alright, so let's go back to our definition of sex. Remember, sex is everything that connects male with a female and everything that differentiates male from the female. In this definition, we understand that sex is the collection of everything that we need to know about male and female. And we know that the only two forms of humans are male and female. Why male and female? Okay, so why not only one form of human being? I know that question will be left for nature to answer, because there are many things that we don't know why they are made or created that way. Okay, for instance, does anyone know why we have 5 fingers, 2 hands, 2 legs, okay, 1 head, 1 mouth, 2 ears, and so on and so forth, different part of our body, and even some other things that we can see in the environment? Does anyone know the reason why we have those things? Okay, so in as much as we can give our own ideas and speculations about why those things are the way they are, I still believe that the main reason, the real answer is with the nature or the creator, who in his wisdom has created or made those things that way. Be that as it may, understand the purpose of sex is not out of our reach for knowledge. Since human beings are created in 2 forms, something must always connect them and make them live together and grow together. Just as the way something must always connect man with his environment, what connects me with a female together is sex. what connects man to his environment together? What connects man to his environment is food and other things. Okay, so actually when we look at food, we can summarize everything that man got from his environment as food. Okay, since food is essentially what sustains man and make him live and stays healthy. So everything that contributes to these will be called food. So food is what man essentially gets from the environment and is what connects man to his environment. So think again about sex. If there's no sex, that is what connects male and female, like we've established, they will have forgotten each other and differentiate, from each other a long time ago. Sex brings male and female together for productivity, for creativity, for prosperity, and for longevity. You see, sex becomes a force that binds man together with a woman. You see, it becomes a force that binds man together, not only in action but also in being. You see, the male is attracted to the female nature and the female is attracted to the male nature, like we've established. The purpose of sex, therefore, is to keep man, that is the male and female, together on earth and expand their species into next generation. In this knowledge, sex is food because its purpose is similar to that of food, and as we've established, food keeps man on earth as individuals. Sex keeps man on earth as a species. Okay, so why as individuals you eat food to survive? Okay, we have sex as a species to also survive. So it's all about survival, right? Yeah. So food connects man to his environment, sex connects man to his species. So both sex and food are established on the pattern of connection and sustenance of human species on earth. If you wonder why you're always crazy about food and sex, it is because nature doesn't want to take a chance, or now it must keep you alive and make you healthy on earth. If you don't eat food as an individual, you may starve yourself to death. And of course, if you don't have sex with your partner, you may not have anyone to replace you when you die. You see, why we think about other people, oh, let them give birth to children, let them be fertile, I don't care about having children. But you think about yourself, put yourself in other people's shoes and imagine everybody's thinking like you, everybody's thinking like the way you're thinking. Nobody's going to remain on earth. You see, nobody's going to be there again on earth. So, as much as you're thinking about other people having children, you should also think like that for yourself. That, okay, if they are not thinking of having children like you, who is going to remain on earth? Who is going to remain on earth? So everybody must think of replacing themselves. That's very important. You see? So if you don't have sex with a partner, you may not have anybody to replace you, and so nature keeps the thoughts, the feelings and the actions and the desire about food and sex so strong that no normal human being can resist. You see, on average, a man thinks 2 to 3 times at least a day about sex. An average human thinks about sex at least 1 or 2 times. Sometimes it can be more than that, at least. You see, the male thinks more about sex and the female thinks more about food. This is important because the male carries it, it cares to preserve humanity by sowing his seeds, while the female cares to preserve humanity by nurturing our offspring as seeds. You see, so in short, everything is towards human sustenance and successions on earth. So the purpose of sex is to keep us alive, just as the purpose of food. So we have sex to keep and enjoy our species on earth. We eat food to keep and enjoy our living on earth. Very important. Alright, so that's the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 now. Functions. How are the functions of sex similar to the functions of food? We know there are many functions of sex, but how are they similar to the functions of food? So in this chapter, we want to understand and analyze 3 important functions of sex and see how they are related to food. Bear in mind that the functions of sex are discussed in the light of the functions of food, okay, and vice versa. So we know that food provides us with energy and nutrients. When we eat food, we don't only enjoy the taste of the food, but we also benefit from the content of the food, which could eventually be the most important thing in food. We know food serves us many benefits, okay? That cannot be overemphasized. But the essential function is to give us energy and nutrients, which in turn will be used to run the body metabolic processes, build our tissues, and keep us healthy. In a comparative manner, let's look at sex. Sex provides us with bonding, that's energy, and reproduction and recreation, that is nutrients, okay? So there's release of abundant sexual energy when we have connection, when we connect with our opposite sex, with our partner. Many of us have done so many things because of this influence we got from the opposite sex, okay? Some have even gone to the level of doing extraordinary things because of this influence that we call sexual energy. We know we can't do work without energy, but many of us are unclear where these energies come from when we perform some work, especially on a different level. Take for instance a young man who has a girlfriend at her close by when he's playing one of his favorite sports. He experiences a peak performance when his girlfriend is present compared to when she's not. He knows that what happened was because his girlfriend was present, but he wouldn't just know that there is sexual energy somewhere that provided him with the extra performance, you see, that he had during the sports. Very important. And there's so many things that we've done under the influence of this sexual energy, and many wonder why this energy came, they wonder where the energy came from, and if it is what they can always invoke. Of course, you can always invoke it, definitely. We can always generate sexual energy by connecting with the opposite sex, by connecting with someone who you are sexually attracted to, the person that we love and always want to be with. For men, it could be sisters, aunties, girlfriends, wives, mothers, and female mentors and coaches. Now, when I mention sexual attraction, it doesn't mean just intercourse, okay? But understanding the fact that, okay, like we've established in this book, that the male and female, what connect and differentiate. So you having that attraction to the opposite sex is based on the fact that you are both sexual beings, and then you both have sexual differences that you are both attracted to. Very important, which establish the energy, the sexual energy we're talking about, the pulling force, the magnetic force. All right, very important. So the sexual energy is so abundant that when you begin to leverage on it, your level of performance and productivity will dramatically improve. So to elaborate this discussion more, let's look at the functions of sex under 3 categories. The first function is recreation. The first function of sex we will discuss is recreation. I call this the pleasure function of sex. We know sex gives us pleasure. We feel happy, relaxed, refreshed. The kind of pleasure that we get from sex is like no other. Its energy is so different and vibrant. You don't get it from anywhere. And that is what makes sex so unique and special. It is a pleasure that runs all over our body and raises our desire for more. We can sacrifice anything to have this pleasure, believe me, especially for men. And many people have sex solely because of this purpose. The pleasure makes us feel satisfied anytime we have sex, and always makes us to want more and more and do more. It's one major force that keeps bringing us back into the act. Many people may not love sex if it does not have this pleasure function. For real, think about it. Human beings are designed to want and seek pleasure. We do things that gives us pleasure. Yeah. You know how many things that you've done that you know, oh, you're doing it because you want to get pleasure, because you want to be happy with yourself, you want to feel good, you see. So we do things to give us pleasure, make us happy, feel good, right? This can clearly explain why some people are addicted to sex. The pleasure is reinforcing and renewing. We don't only love sex while having it, we love the aftermath and the way it makes us to feel in our body, and that's what makes us want to come back for it more and more. The pleasure function of sex makes us to love sex. We are never tired of it. Satisfaction can only be for the moment. We still want more and desire to come back and do it. This pleasure function of sex makes us to want to connect and bond more with our sexual partner. We want to love and care more. You see, the pleasure also makes us also makes our system to feel relaxed and ease our body off tensions and stress. We want to tolerate and accommodate people more. We want to become less angry. You see, when we are feeling pleasure, we don't, when we feel pleasure, we hardly feel hungry. We feel angry. You see, we don't feel pleasure and feel stress. So we just feel less stressed, less tensed, calmer, cool-headed, right? Yeah, because you are having pleasure. Yeah. So the world becomes interesting to live in, and everything becomes easy to deal with. This pleasure aspect of sex has made achieving goals for some men to be quite easier and faster. Some people feel energized after having sex and want to go back and do what they've once abandoned. As I've mentioned earlier, there's definitely some dose of energy that are infused into our system every time we have sex, and that energy can help us to accomplish a lot of tasks. If you've experienced or heard some people said that their self-esteem was raised after having sex with their partner and they feel more valued and appreciated, then you know it because of the pleasure that sex gives. The pleasure that eases you off pressure of trying to please people or looking down on yourself. You literally see yourself as someone who shares love and pleased in satisfying yourself and your partner. This is the height of pleasure and satisfaction in life. To bring this in context, let's look at how sex is food based on this first function of sex, and then why sex is food. Okay, so we know that food gives us pleasure, and needless to say that many of us eat food because we enjoy it. People don't eat food that they don't like or enjoy. Forget about the nutrients. If you don't enjoy eating a particular food, you most likely avoid eating the food. You will not want to eat the food, you see, because you don't have craving for it. You don't enjoy it. You don't feel the pleasure that you have when you eat normal food, you see. So the first thing is pleasure. The feeling good. Like, does it taste good in your mouth? Does it make you feel good? You see. So pleasure is an important aspect of food. You see. In fact, many things that we do to food actually, so gives us maximum pleasure when we eat the food. Many things that we do to food actually gives us maximum pleasure. But as a matter of fact, cooking and other things that we do to food, cooking and other processing that we do to food, you see, may not so much improve the nutrients, but to give us pleasure when we eat it. Very important. Some people enjoy eating hot food, while some other people enjoy eating cold food. Some people enjoy eating sweet, while others enjoy eating only salty and savory, umami. And these are geared towards giving us pleasure and making us feel good. And that's to tell you the power of pleasure, right? So while the pleasure thing might be physical as it affects our body, it's also psychological because it affects our mind. You see, the food that we eat and feel good about will most likely give our body more nutrients than the food that we don't feel good about. This is because it is our mind that controls our food digestion, absorption, and assimilation. So any food that we don't feel good about, our mind will not allow it to enter our body and so lose the nutrient. Therefore, no matter the nutrient level of any food, if you don't feel good about it, this is applicable to sex as well. No matter how good the food is, if you don't feel good about it, you will not get nutrients out of it. Very important. So that is what we hope. And this is applicable to sex as well. It's a sex that you don't enjoy the sex that you don't enjoy might probably not make you feel good and alive. So you could feel lots of energy and passion, and it could be what could make you deter from sex, you see. But the pleasure of sex reinforces our love for sex. Very important. The second point, the second subheading is rejuvenation. That's the second function of sex, rejuvenation. So I call this protection function of sex. See, this can also be therapeutic. Sex renews our body and makes our body systems work properly. Scientific researches indicate that sex improves cardiovascular functions, immune system, and musculoskeletal system. It also protects the body against prostate cancer in men and prevents sleep disorders by inducing secretion of sleep-causing hormones and stress-free chemicals. Sex prevents stroke. Sex also has emotional protection. It protects us from feeling angry and hostile against our partner. It improves our mental performance and alertness, and it is known to rejuvenate our skin and makes us look and feel younger. How is food connected to this protection function of sex? We know food protects our body. It does that in many ways. One way is boosting our immune system and increasing its ability to fight against infections. Another way is building our body tissues and repair them when they are damaged. So food gives our body energy and helps it to run its basic metabolic functions or processes. Food also has a way of protecting us emotionally, because when we feel satisfied, we feel less hungry. They say a hungry man is an angry man. So when one is hungry, one is 1 inch closer to anger. So food allows us to live longer and age slower. It protects our skin and prevents direct invasion of pathogens into our body, right? Very important. Reproduction. That's the third point, reproduction. The third function of sex is reproductive function. So I call this the purpose function of sex. We know sex is designed not only for our enjoyment but also for our procreation, for us to keep our species on earth. One of the very first commandments that was given to man, male and female, is to be fruitful and multiply, to replenish the earth, right? As much as that could have many other meanings, the main idea is to reproduce and have our offspring feed the earth. The earth cannot manage itself without humans. It is humans that build roads, houses, cars, and so many lofty things that we see in our world today, right? All the technological breakthrough and all those things that we're seeing. Okay, but animals cannot do but nothing. They cannot do any of this. They cannot do any of this. So this world is so big that we can never be short of space because of overpopulation. Like some people are saying, oh, at a point we're gonna get short of resources. We're gonna become overpopulated, that everybody's just gonna fill the entire head. We're not gonna have space anymore. That is never true. It cannot be true. If our population right now, if it can be times 10, I mean the population of the entire world, it can be times 10, we will still be able to live comfortably here on earth without so much problem, because of so many abundant, unlimited resources that we have access to. Okay, so the world is so big that we cannot even get short of space because of overpopulation. Rather, we can only be short of resourcefulness. You see, not because of lack of resources, but because of lack of willingness, because of lack of the desire to bring out the treasure that's resident in us. So there's abundance and there's more than enough in our world. There's more than enough resources in our world. And if every one of us decide to be rich, nothing can stop anyone from doing so except themselves. You see, the resources are abundant even to cater for everyone's need and wants. Therefore, sex gives us the opportunity to multiply our species and increase our population on Earth, thereby preventing our extinction from Earth. Since the first man was made, human beings have been occupying the surface of the Earth for hundreds and thousands of years. There has not been any time or occasion when all human beings have been wiped out from the surface of the earth. Even in the time of flood, according to history, Noah and his family were preserved to restore human population on the earth. So even since that time of creation, humans have been dominating and replenishing the earth. From this, we know sex is food because food allows us to reproduce. Reproduction cannot be done without food. Conception and reproduction cannot be carried out without a supply of energy and nutrients from food. Food on its own does cause the reproduction of body cells, as in the case of bodybuilding and repair of tissues, right? Yeah, that happens in our body every time, practically every time, right? So thousands of cells die in the body every day, and they are being replaced because there is nutrient and energy supply from food. The reproductive function of food is clearly seen in pregnant women, as many of them eat more during pregnancy because of reproduction of the growing cells and tissues of the baby, right, inside the mother's womb. So when we look at our body, we look at the nutrients that food has deposited in our body over a long period of time. Right from the time of conception to where we are right now, people are not eating well or lack some nutrients in their diet could be susceptible to attacks by pathogens and come down with disease, which could take their lives, you see. So lack of food can decrease human population, while abundance of food can increase human population. This was what happened during agricultural revolution. Because of so much food, so human population increased because food production also increases. So in all of this, we've seen how food emulates the function of sex, and in the light of this function, sex takes the practical functions of food. So this establishes one of the reasons why sex is food. Chapter 6, Stimulants. In this chapter, we want to discuss the similar factors that stimulate the desire for both sex and food. We know that there are certain factors that trigger a desire for sex and food, and these factors have been present for ages. Some are within us, some are outside of us. Let's discuss these factors under three headings. First, the physical. Second, the physiological. And third, the psychological. First, the physical. These are factors that are seen by our physical eyes. They are connected to looks and physical structures. Okay, the physical stimulants are for sex. The physical stimulants for sex are the looks. They are things that our eyes can see and get our body sexually aroused. The looks are very important when it comes to the stimulation of sex, just as the way we have it in food. Most men, if not all men, are sexually aroused when they see a sexually attractive woman. If a woman looks younger and prettier, she's most likely to send a strong sexual signal to men, with or without our intention. Now, we've seen this a couple of times. You as a man, when you go on the street and you see a woman, if she has all these features, she's got nice looking body, she's got nice looking face, beautiful, pretty, and she looks younger, so you just feel attracted to her. So it's a physical stimulant. Okay, so when it comes to sex, looks is everything for men. A man can look at two women and feel more sexually attracted to one than the other. Most of the reasons would be based on the looks. Perhaps her dress looks so sexually attractive. She did some makeups that makes her look more beautiful and has a good curve at the front and back, than the other woman. So when you're comparing two women, you will always have more sexual preference to one than the other. Yeah, because of all these things that we mentioned, because men are basically attracted to looks. Looks is a major physical stimulant for men when it comes to sex. Very important. Okay, now men love women with with big buttocks and cone-shaped breast. You see, this sends a signal that the woman is healthy and she can carry its offspring if fertilization occurs and be able to breastfeed its baby. So the boobs shows that he can breastfeed the baby, as like looks big and healthy, and the big butts also shows that she can conceive. She has a good womb to plant a seed and also be able to give birth. She's not going to have problem with giving birth, right? Very important. You see, so women who understand these secrets about looks actually make sure that they fine-tune their body shape and make it portray a healthy feminine look, and make sure that they wear body-fitted clothes. They don't wear all kind of loose and unattractive clothes, but they make sure they wear very attractive, sexually attractive clothes that bring out good look, right? Yeah, so a lot of women have done this, they're doing this, and they are using that to attract men a lot. Yeah, because men are always so attracted by the looks, by what they see. Okay, so they top it up with nice makeup, and if they want to go natural, they also make sure they look so good, the look is so strong to captivate any man and make them bow, right? So to know how strong these physical stimulants are, we can see this how thriving the porn industry is. See, what we see in porn industry is basically people in nudity, they are showing their sexual organs, and they are having stage act sex. See, so looking at that, just looking at those scenes, those videos and those pictures, men are sexually aroused, because we're talking about looks. You see, people, especially men, they stay on porn for most part of their day, watching people having sex, right? Even though they are not having sex with their partner, as the man who is watching the porn is not having sex with a partner, or doesn't have a partner with him, maybe probably not having a partner with him, but he's still stimulating himself sexually and is experiencing sexual pleasure just because of looks, right? So, and that is the power of vision, of visualization, seeing something. You see what your eyes can see, right? So in the same vein, we can say this with food. Do you know how many times you've eaten some food because of the way it looks? You see, a food may have some nice taste and aroma, but if the look is not appealing, you may not be stimulated to eat the food. You know how many times you've seen some food that you don't feel attracted to eat, even though they may have nice look, may have nice nutrients and all those things, but you don't just feel attracted to eat the food because the look doesn't look attractive to you. You see, it doesn't look attractive to you. Imagine you saw a nice food only for you to find out that there are some very dirty things around the food, some feces around the food. No matter how much you love the food, I'm sure the sight of feces or any dirt around the food will kill your appetite immediately, because it's all about looks. It's all about what you see. You see, that affects your appetite, affects your craving for the food. So if it doesn't look good, the principle, if it doesn't look good, it doesn't taste good. If it doesn't taste good, it's not good for your body. You see, that's a very powerful concept, because it's a sentimental assumption that overrules facts. This shows that the same principle apply for both sex and food when it comes to physical stimulants. If you don't love food, if you don't love what you see in your partner, you may not be sexually aroused, you see. And if you are not aroused sexually, you will not enjoy sex with your partner. You see, if you're not sexually aroused, you will not enjoy sex with your partner. You see, that is why it's important to see everything good in your partner. It will help your sex life. This doesn't mean your partner would not have things that you physically abhor or fight against or don't like, but you will just focus on good, because good, when you focus on good, good will multiply and cover the bad side. See, in this same way, you're going to have a mind-blowing sexual experience with your partner, and you will live a happy and sexy life, right? Remember, a good look for yourself and your partner make you feel good, and so keep working on your ability to look good, so that your partner will feel good more about you, and about you and your partner will feel more good about yourself, about you, everybody will feel good about themselves, right? Good, very important. Yeah. So the second point is the physiological. They are stimulants that are generated within the body. See, these are hormones, they are neurotransmitters and other chemicals that are aroused or sexually. Men who have higher level of testosterone have more sexual craving than men who do not. It has been shown scientifically, it has been shown, we've seen this, every time. Men who are filled with a lot of sexual hormones, who are filled with a lot of, male androgens, the sex hormones, they have more sexual drive, they have more sexual craving, they have more sexual desire than men who do not. The sex hormones affect how women crave for sex in the course of their menstrual cycle as well. The estrogen, the progesterone, the fluctuation in the level of these hormones affect their sexual desire as well. You see, they reach the peak during the ovulation period. Some people who have low sexual desire have been assisted medically to boost their sexual drive by taking synthesized sex hormones, like for instance women during or before or after menopause. You see, so they could be assisted with some hormones to boost their sexual drive in terms of giving them all these synthesized female hormones, to increase their sexual desire. Okay, so another important physiological stimulant are the general body states, the health condition and the system that triggers the body's desire for sex. People who have active lifestyle tend to be more sexually involved than people who do not. The active functioning of both the internal and external sexual organs make it easy to get stimulated for sex. The glands, penis, and clitoris have numerous nerve endings that make them to be highly sensitive to touch and sexual arousal. The breast, nipples, and regions around it for women are also sensitive to touch. So if you want to arouse a woman and she loves having sexually aroused on her breast, so you can make sure you touch those areas as well. The breast and the regions around the nipple, they are highly sensitive to touch, and because they contain a lot of nerve endings, they are highly innervated, right? So the active function of these parts make it easier to crave and enjoy sexual pleasure. To see how food is connected to this, let's look at how we crave food. There are different hormones in our body that increase our appetite for food. Ghrelin, for instance, does increase our appetite for food. Growth hormone and thyroid hormone also do likewise. The active functioning of the digestive organs, especially the ones at the beginning region, that's the oral cavity, the taste buds, and the salivary glands, all make us enjoy the pleasure of eating food. So when we have good appetite based on the normal function of these systems and hormones, we lead a more happy and healthy life, and this is how we enjoy our sex life as well. Then the third category, the third factor is the psychological. This has to do with your thoughts and your thinking process. Your thoughts can stimulate the desire for sex. That's all happening in your mind. You see, as a matter of fact, your most sensitive sexual organ is your mind. So you hardly can do anything without your mind. People who masturbate do it on the basis of engaging their mind to assume that they are having sex with a partner while they are not. So it's more or less like deceiving their mind, you see. So they either watch porn or stimulate themselves. they either watch porn to stimulate themselves, or they imagine it. So it all boils down to using their mind to arouse their sexual feelings. See, that's why they are able to come without having real sex. A man can see a naked woman and don't feel sexually aroused if his mind is not there. And a man may not see any woman and still feel sexually aroused because of his thoughts. So he's just thinking about the last sex he had with his partner or the last porn he watched yesterday night. The mind is important for controlling our sexual thoughts and desires. People who struggle to reaching orgasm while having sex could be because of the conditioning of their mind. You see, if their mind is not settled enough and they got engaged with a lot of stressful thoughts, they are most likely not going to come, because the mind is a highly sensitive sexual organ, and any alteration to it focus on sex, as at the time of having it, it may affect the end result, which is orgasm. Okay, that's the peak of pleasure. We see this orgasm with ejaculation. Anyways, we see this every time with food. Thinking about our favorite food alone can make us to start salivating and crave eating that food. Whether we imagine or see the food, the most important thing is for our mind to be connected to the food. So that is where the appetite comes from. Some people have a lot of food to eat but don't feel like or have appetite for eating the food, simply because their mind is not connected with the food. Mind connection has to do with things like their past experience about the food, what they've been told about the food, their feeling about the food, and what their mind could perceive about the food currently. If the food is not eatable in their mind, it is not eatable in their mouth. So the mind is everything, as we've seen it with sex. So that ends chapter 6. Now chapter 7, cost. What is the cost of sex? You can think for a moment the cost of the last food you had. Maybe you cooked it or it was given to you. But let's assume you cooked it. You went to the market to buy all the food ingredients that you need. Then you came back home to cook the food. You did the cooking and it turned out well. Then you had the food and felt satisfied. So what was the cost of the food that you had? Okay, so let's start. So the cost starts from you as a person. You see, you are the one that started the cost of you cooking the food. Your health, very important. If you're not healthy, you won't think of going to the market or preparing any food. So in that case, you will need someone's assistance if you are not healthy. See, that's another cost. Yeah, that's a big cost right there. If you are not healthy, you need someone to assist you with it. Now, another cost is your availability. Yeah, you may be healthy, but if you are not available, yeah, you may be healthy, but if you're not available to go shopping or prepare the food, you won't still cook the food, right? So availability is part of the cost. It's part of the requirement for cooking a nice food, right? Other factors will be your energy, your resources, your culinary skills, and so on. They all require to get a nice meal done, right? So now, looking at this in the context of sex, you want to understand that sex has a requirement as food, because it is actually food. First, the cost of sex is your health, like we mentioned earlier for food. If you're not healthy, you don't think of having sex, or better still, you don't feel like having sex. Yeah. The health is very important as far as your sexual desire is concerned. Have you noticed that people who have problems with their health also have problems with their sex life? There's no amount of sexual stimulation that you can receive if you are not healthy sexually. You are not active sexually. You see? So it all boils down to your health. It all boils down to the health of your sexual organs, the health of your body part. Because when we talk about sex, we are not just looking at just your sexual organs, but we are looking at your entire body, because it's actually your entire body that is involved. You see, that is involved every time you're having sex. They're very important. So sex requires your health, because there must be some level of strength and wellness that you must have in your body before you think of having sex, right? Women who sometimes have bouts of headache, they tell their spouse of their unavailability for sex. And sometimes the reason can be tiredness, weakness, stress, or some emotional trauma or imbalance. In any of these cases, the person's health is impaired and sexual activity will be affected. Also, the level of functioning of your body, sex sexual organs also matters. For men who are castrated or those who have erectile dysfunction will know how difficult it is to endure sex instead of enjoying it. Health is one of the major costs of sex. Your time and availability is another major cost of sex. It is very important, your time and availability. Okay, so what does that mean? So though most people actually would think that having time for sex, they think they have time for sex, especially men. They always say, okay, yeah, of course I have time for sex, we're gonna have it and all that. But it is not like the way they think. You see, it is not a casual thing. To have sex for men, you see, to really have sex will mean that you are not going to do any other thing apart from sex. Your mind is not going to wander about, you see, you're not going to start thinking about something, what you want to do next, or your unfinished project, So when you are having sex, it simply means you're being here and now. You are engaged with your mind, with your physical body, with everything. So all your focus and attention is on sex and your partner. And that is what brings the best out of it, So you get the best out of sex when you give it your utmost attention, when you give it your rapt attention. So the more attention you give to it, the more you enjoy every moment of it. You see, just as the more attention you give to cooking food, the more nice it comes out. Right? Proven. And when it comes to women, they actually want and need time for sex. Women live in eternity and don't see time as the way men do. So when a man is always focused on going straight to the heart, a woman is not like that. She needs time to get ready. That's why we have foreplay. Okay, so you can actually do that, do foreplay to get her ready, while you also get yourself ready as well. But since that won't take longer time, so you have to make sure you also extend the foreplay so that she actually take her time to get ready. Very important. Yeah. So that allow her to get ready before you do the main act. So some women are pissed off by men who always complain about waste of time while caressing or doing foreplay with them. As a matter of fact, women believe they should be given time and attention, and all this connotes to them as love. So women don't feel loved when they are not given attention. And no matter how much things you give to them, if you don't give them attention, you are missing the main ingredient. Attention is not just what they want, it is actually what they need. Okay? And since attention is time, it is a cost you have to pay. Give it to them and they will give every other thing to you. In a nutshell, creating time for sex is paramount if you want to enjoy it without creating unnecessary pressure. There will be occasional time for quickies and casuals, but sex is fully enjoyed when adequate time is allotted for it. When it comes to sex, giving your energy is another price that you have to pay. Every sex requires both your physical and emotional energy. All the movement that you do and the feelings that you express demonstrate giving out your energy. Men who are sexually active know that they can be physically drained of their energy after sex, and sometimes they feel hungry after the act to replenish their lost nutrients. The energy is also expressed in form of giving maximum attention to the act and avoiding distractions, unwanted thoughts during the act that affect how well you enjoy it. So being able to control your thoughts and focus only on the act requires energy, and that is why having a good sex will always require energy. Okay, so one thing you also want to pay attention to when it comes to the cost of sex is your resources. There will definitely be need for your resources, either in cash or in other value. We know nothing is free in life. Yeah, there's no free lunch. Even what you are giving for free is not free, because there's a cost attached to it. You see, there's a cost of production. So in any sex will definitely not be free. People who are married will tell you that they don't even have sex as they want. Chocolates of people who are not married. So not because they don't have the legal right to have sex with their spouse, but because of the cost of sex. You see, when it comes to sex, we know there's need for proper hygiene, and that can be done without buying of things which will require some money. Apart from the environment where the act will be done, one must make sure the general hygiene of the place is okay. There's enough fresh air, clean bedroom if it's in the house, and all the materials used are clean. There's also need for body cleanup before and after sex. So depending on how long the act takes, one may sweat, you may sweat, or have semen or vaginal secretions stain the body or the bed. And so there will be need for shower or cleanup. And all this will require spending some money. Okay? Meanwhile, this doesn't mean without money one cannot have sex with one's partner. Of course, you can have sex with your partner. It's not going to be like you're paying for it every time. Yeah, it just means that there's a cost for every sex, whether you are paying for it directly or not. You see, you may buy or before. You may buy those items before or after. The items that you need, you see. But the important thing is you got to buy them. Yeah, because you need them. So, but you should know that you always need those items if you want to keep and enjoy a good sex life. Sex requires a lot of hygiene if it is to be maintained and enjoyed. People who have sex without taking good care of their body have higher tendency of contracting both sexually transmitted disease and skin diseases. When the body is not clean, infections can easily enter the genitals through the skin contact and so breed into disease inside the recipient's body. If there's basic hygiene, most, if not all, of the easily transmitted pathogens will be prevented from entering the body during sex. Depending on the type of sex, for most part of our body involved, the inside of the body is always exposed to the outside of the body. We have seen this in the case of penis when you want to whether urinate or even have ejaculation or something. You see how fluid comes from your body through your penis, through the mouth, through your glans penis outside, you see. So we call that external meatus. That's external opening. Yeah. So whether it is for oral, whether it's oral, vaginal, or anal sex, there's engagement of these parts. You see, there's engagement of these parts of the body which directly connect it to the interior of the body. You see, so all these parts of the body, the penis, the vagina, even the breast, they all connect the internal part of the body to the external part of the body. You see, so any transmission of infection from the outside to these places could easily bring infection into the body. Yeah, we've seen this in many cases. You know, we've seen many cases of these in people who are not hygienic. Okay, and those who live in poor countries, they have sex without taking care of their body, and they end up with several infections that little money will have, that they supposed, they're supposed to have spent in preventing it could have solved. You see, so but when the thing becomes a problem, little money is not going to be enough to solve the problem anymore, because prevention is not only better than cure, it is safer, easier, and cheaper than cure. So you can have sex for free without paying or being paid for it, but sex itself is never free because there are costs to it, like we mentioned. Yeah. So your knowledge and skills about sex will also be part of the cost. If you're not aware about some of the things that I've shared, you will have a higher tendency of staying healthy. If you already have that knowledge, you have a higher tendency of staying healthy. Yeah. Because you know these things and you will be able to apply them. So why you enjoy all that you want about sex. But if you're not, lack of education will also pay you off and could be so expensive. Your knowledge about sex, how to enjoy it, how to stay long in bed, how to satisfy your partner, and so on, will surely give you an edge over someone who doesn't know. Definitely. Some people have never really enjoyed sex or satisfied their partner because of lack of this knowledge. At least 70% of women don't really enjoy sex with their partner. When we found out what could be the primary cause of this malady, we realized it's basically because of lack of knowledge by most men on how to satisfy their partner. Many of them don't understand female body and how it works apart from the general thing that they can see on the outside. They don't know what is going on the inside of them, of women. So they don't know how to press the right buttons in giving their women maximum sexual satisfaction. You see, so there's so many men. There are men who are ignorant, who don't have so much adequate knowledge, you see, to be able to give their wives or their female partner the best sexual satisfaction that they can have. You see, in fact, some men think that there's not even need for women to feel sexually satisfied. Okay, for what? For what? Say it's a taboo for them, because some of them have been they've dogmatically believed that women could be promiscuous because of having sexual satisfaction. So it is better not to make them enjoy it while they sacrifice a lot for it. You see, once the man has come, he's good to go. Yeah, till next time he's hungry for sex. But this is supposed not to be so. I mean, if, as a matter of fact, we don't give women sexual pleasure to make them to be promiscuous. Promiscuity is character issue that has nothing to do with sexual satisfaction. What is the point of two people having sex with only one person enjoying it and it doesn't care if the other person is satisfied or not? This is an act of selfishness and must be stopped. If we both engage in sex, and we should both enjoy it without looking for only one person's satisfaction. I believe the other is changing right now, and most men are coming to the awareness of balancing the equation and giving their partner enough sexual satisfaction. You wouldn't know how fulfilling it is, how amazing, how lovely it is to really enjoy sex and know that your partner really cares about your sexual satisfaction. This is not in those days, in those olden days when men will only meet their wife when they want to have children. Just like in those days when most people thought the mouth was only for food, right? It was later they realized that they could talk with it, they could sing with it, they could breathe with it, they could even have pleasure with it. So in the same manner, sex is not only for making children, like we've established, you see. So there are other important functions of sex, and that's what we're talking about in this book. So that are not even associated with babies at all. So having sex with your partner is first of all bonding with your partner, connecting with your partner without the intervention of the third party. The sex is essentially for both of you. You should feel happy with yourself and your partner, you see. So the satisfaction is ever paramount. So sex makes both of you share love, to deepen that love and pass down that love, you see. So that love runs over your body, engulfs your emotion and feeds your thinking. So when you now have baby with this sex now, with this kind of love that's already all over the atmosphere, the love will be passed down to your children and they will carry it to the next generation. So in that case, you're going to have a happy family, you're going to have a happy life. So sex is essentially to be shared, enjoyed and cherished. So your knowledge and skills in the art of sex will always be paramount to your enjoyment and satisfaction of it. Right. Before we close this chapter, one of the costs of sex is its consequences. This can be good or bad. So let's start with the good consequences. First is conception. Part of the cost that you may have to pay for sex is if fertilization occurs. Depending on your expectation, if you want it, then that would be a good news. But if you don't, it will be a nightmare. In any case, you don't want to risk anything. So if you don't want conception, then avoid it. Find a good birth control that is suitable for both you and your partner. It is better for you to prevent than for you to treat it. Okay? So if you don't want pregnancy, make sure you avoid it rather than you aborting the pregnancy. Right? That's not good. So there are many people who want to have children who could not. So don't waste the opportunity you have to have conception, you see. So very important. For those expecting children, pregnancy will be a good consequence of the intercourse, and it's a cost that both of you and your partner will be happy to pay. As I've mentioned earlier, that nothing goes for free. So it may appear free, but it's never free. Sex brings pregnancy and pregnancy brings baby. So the journey takes time, money, energy, and other resources. So there is a cost of having baby. You see, the second consequence you could bear in mind as part of the cost of sex is the emotional involvement. You could be emotionally attached to the person depending on the strength of your relationship. So for people who are in a long-term relationship, emotional attachment is a big deal, and as a result of sexual connection, you see, women on average are emotionally attached to their partner after a long period of sexual relationship, and so consequently feel more heat of emotional trauma when they break up from their partner, or on the other hand, enjoy more emotional protection and support from their partner if they keep the relationship. Yeah, very important. So the other aspect of this emotional involvement is that sex makes men to calm and express their giving nature. An average man wants to give whatever he has in his capacity to the woman he loves and has sex with. Sex makes men generous and loving, and so they give everything until they give their seeds. Yeah, pretty much interesting, right? Yeah, they give everything till they give their seeds, and that they are willing to give every time, anytime. Sex could be a good way to bring out the loving nature in men. Another consequence of sex as part of its cost could be transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. STDs are not written on the face, and so to be sure that you're free from it, medical tests must be conducted, and also for your partner. So one could easily avoid this by using condom or any other protective materials. This could be for people who are not married or trust their partner enough and want to make sure that everything is okay before they engage in any sexual relationship. Contracting STDs could seriously affect one's health and ability to get pregnant in case of women. Okay, so or make women pregnant. That's in the case of men. So if a woman has got some problem, with her fertility due to problem with STD, like what we call pelvic inflammatory diseases, could ensue from some of these sexually transmitted diseases. And also in the case of men, who may not be able to impregnate women, so it could be a problem maybe with gonorrhea or syphilis, or STDs that affect their penis, or or the inside, or just causing problem with some of the any of the internal sexual organs, right? Yeah, so very important. So we've got to make sure that we prevent this as much as possible. Okay, so treating all these things could actually be expensive, could be costly, depending on the type. So again, prevention is not only better than cure, but it is safer, easier, and cheaper than cure. So in order to avoid this tragedy, it is better to prevent rather than treat, you see, because sometimes the infection could affect important organs in the body like the uterus, fallopian tubes, testes, liver, brain, gastrointestinal tract, and the skin. So there are different types of STDs, but the very common ones are gonorrhea, syphilis, HIV/AIDS, human papilloma virus, genital shingles, hepatitis B, and chlamydia. All of this could be prevented instead of waiting for them to be contracted and then treated. You see, so in conclusion, one thing that is certain about sex is that there is a cost for it, if not cost. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why it is food, because no food is free. There's no free lunch. Yes, every food comes at a cost, and so even if given for free, it is never free, because it has a price, and that is how sex is. Chapter 8, Thermogenic Effect. What has thermogenic effect got to do with sex and food? I will show you that in this chapter. Thermogenic effect is simply the ability of something to produce or process heat. Heat is a form of energy. So whenever it is produced, energy is produced. But there's something special about it. It is the fact that it is the only form of energy that can alter our state of matter. Matter can exist in 4 states, viz. Liquid, solid, gas, and plasma. Or sometimes they use condensate, or something else. It can alter a matter in any of these states through its presence or absence. Sex and food have thermogenic effects, and this similarity makes us to understand why sex is food, as we're going to see. Now, let's first look at thermogenic effect of food. Every food that we eat generates heat within our body. It doesn't matter if the food is cold, warm, or hot. The moment we put the food inside our mouth and our oral cavity begins to process the food and send it down through the gastrointestinal tract, the heat begins to be generated. You see, but the question may be, what is the essence or usefulness of this heat? Or what actually produces the heat? Okay, so let's start with the second question. The heat is produced as a result of digestive function of the gastrointestinal tract, secretion of juices from the various glands, and increased blood flow around the gastrointestinal areas. Think of the gastrointestinal tract as a machine that when it begins to operate after a while, it starts producing heat, just like the way you have some machines that work, and after some time that they work, they produce heat, right? So the gastrointestinal tract is a digestive machine. So anytime you put food inside it, it goes into work, and that makes it to produce heat. The heat doesn't come from the food, but from the internal structures that we've mentioned earlier, right? Very important. So now to the first question. The essence of producing heat which is a form of energy, it is to mobilize the body chemicals and molecules for work. Molecules move faster when there is heat. When there is heat, they move faster. You see, chemical reactions and metabolic processes can take place faster and easier when there is heat. So everything is driven towards maximum activity and performance. What will this connote? As a matter of fact, what do we want to get from this? It means that food has a way of expediting action. It has a way of speeding up actions. You see, it can make you get things done. You see, have you noticed the time when you are so hungry and feel weak that you can't even carry yourself, or you can't even carry your body? But the moment you put something in your mouth, you begin to feel the energy coming back to your system. Obviously, it's not because of the food that you just ate that gave you the energy or the strength, but the energy that the food you had aroused in your body. You see, for sure you will start, you will still get the energy that you from the food that you had when it's digested and absorbed. Even before then, energy is generated, and that energy comes from heat, and that is the thermogenic effect of food. Alright, now to show why sex is food, we have to see the same pattern with sex to show why sex is food. So let's put sex now in the context of food. So every time you have sex, heat is generated, whether you're aware of it or not. You see, that is why some people say it is a form of exercise, because exercise will cause your body to generate heat. But let's see how this heat is generated in sex and its purpose as we've described for food. Sex is an act that engages every part of our body. So as we go into the act, our heart rate increases, likewise our respiratory rate, our breathing, and blood flow and sympathetic activity also increase generally. So there is also muscular movement and increased secretion from different glands in our genital areas. As these activities begin to set in and increase, this culminates into production of heat energy, and in turn could later be released as sweat. So this energy that is produced makes us vibrant, active and alert till the end of sex. The energy can directly act on our brain cells to increase our mental performance. There's a high degree of cognition and mental focus after sex. Some people, especially men, have not discovered this phenomenon yet. They could just go into sleep or find something else to do after sex, while whiling away the fresh energy that is just generated. This energy can help men to solve problems, make important decisions, and generate lofty ideas. They will simply notice increase in their mental performance and alertness. Sleeping after sex could be a passive action that one could switch into, whereas staying awake could actually require some active action. So the thermogenic effect of sex makes it easy for us to do work after sex. Now, since energy is the ability to do work can be generated whenever energy is produced. You see? And the heat energy produced during and after sex makes us strong enough and prepares us for work. This work is more of mental work, not physical activity or hard labor. And this involves the ability to engage our mind in solving practical problems and generating meaningful ideas. People who utilize this energy have seen practicable differences in their lives and endeavors. Most men that I've discussed with about this phenomenon told me that they notice absolute concentration and mental performance during this act or just after sex with their partner. During that period of just having sex with their partner, they notice increased focus and attention, no matter that they are of concern, no matter what is of concern to them, and they start working out solution on those matters. They also observed increase in memory and were able to remember many things in the past they have skipped their mind but useful in solving the present problem at hand. So it just basically improved, their memory capacity, their mental performance. It's a very powerful phenomenon. Yeah, to explain this phenomenon more scientifically, let's look at some chemicals that are released in our body during sex. According to some scientific research, we know certain hormones are produced during orgasm, and there's increased blood flow into some certain brain areas during sex. You see, so all this could increase activity in the brain, which will increase mental performance. Some of the hormones released during and after sex are oxytocin, dopamine, dihydroepiandrosterone, DHEA, endorphins, and prolactin. So, okay, let's look at the function of these hormones. Let's start with oxytocin. Oxytocin is a love hormone. It increases calmness, trust, social interaction, and bonding, and it even also decreases fear. It increases general well-being and bonding. Okay, oxytocin can increase men's ability to take risks while remaining calm with taking the right decisions and dissolving fears. Dopamine is important in executive functions. Dopamine, because it allows focus, such as discrete thinking, executive functions like discrete thinking, planning, judgment, working memory, and self-control, motor control, motivation, arousal, reinforcement, and pleasure reward mechanism. Dopamine doesn't only give men pleasure during sex, it also increases the ability to perform mentally after sex. It increases the ability to think, to plan, and to execute their plans with self-control and determination, with high focus. Yeah. So, okay, let's go to the third hormone. DHEA, that's dihydroepiandrosterone, is found to increase neuronal functions, including neurogenesis, neuronal growth and differentiation, and also neuroprotection. It prevents chronic and oxidative stress and aids production of estrogen and testosterone hormones for sexual functions. It also affects cognitive function and memory, and it reduces the risk of having diabetes, obesity, immune disorders, atherosclerosis, and cancer. So DHEA has antidepressant effect, and its reduction could cause muscle weakness, lack of energy, lethargy, infertility, and weight loss. Okay, so presence of DIA during and after sex will increase energy, vibrancy, and reduction of stress. Okay, so let's look at endorphins. Endorphins help in dealing with stress, reduction of pain, boosting of pleasure, and increased general well-being. Endorphins are generally released in response to increased physical activity such as sex, exercise, massage, dining out, or even taking a walk. Right. The release of endorphins during sex makes positive vibes and energy available after sex. Sex is reduced and focus is increased, making one feel happy at life and achieving goals. Prolactin increases milk production in women, increases testosterone secretion in men, improves stress adaptation, causes neurogenesis, and enhances proliferation of brain supportive cells. Thereby, it's all about increasing brain power. All of this ensure in more mental performance, increased strength, and situational adaptation. As we've seen in this chapter, energy is made available during and after sex, be it in form of heat and other forms, which makes work easier and performance higher. The moderate level of heat generated during sex puts the body on a pedestal of activity and performance after sex. And as we've seen similar case with food, this phenomenon establishes one of the reasons why sex is food. Chapter 9. Positions. In this chapter, we will use positions to describe why sex is food. Most people like sitting on the chair to eat, while some other people like sitting on the floor. Some may even prefer squatting or standing, while occasionally some may just be walking and be eating. Whichever position is suitable for you, what is important is that you are comfortable with the position while eating. You see, from time to time, we change how we eat and the position that we assume. The ideal position to sit is to sit uprightly. The ideal position to sit when you want to eat is for you to sit uprightly to allow easy flow of food down, your tract, your gastrointestinal tract. Positions like turning the head upside down while eating could actually be dangerous because it doesn't allow easy flow of food and also increases tendency of food getting to unwanted places, which may cause more havoc to your body system. Right? So position is definitely important while eating food. But is that the same case with sex? If sex must be enjoyed and endured, not endured, position is also important. So in this chapter, we want to look at some common sex positions and see how they are important for enjoying sex. So the first one is cowgirl. In this sex position, a woman sits on top of the man and she pushes off his chest and slides up and down his thighs while he lies on his back. She can turn opposite and back his face to do reverse cowgirl. She can relieve him of her weight by leaning back with her hands and supporting herself on his thighs. This position allows a woman to control the thrust and rhythm and get maximum stimulation from the penetration. Okay? So the second position is spooning. A man and a woman lie together on their sides, both facing the same direction, with her in front and him behind. He assumes the big spoon, cuddling her, and she assumes the little spoon, fitting him. She separates her legs a little bit and allow penetration into her anus or vagina from the rear. This sex position is highly comfortable, less thrust, and maximum pleasure. The short strokes from him target her G-spots and makes it enjoyable for her. There might be need for hips adjustment and the man grinding his hips against her butt, and he can easily finger her from behind as well. Okay, so the third sex position is doggy style. This position puts a woman on her knees with her two hands down, and a man enters from behind, whether for anal or vaginal penetration. This position allows for greater depth of penetration and G-spot stimulation, so it is great for high sex drives. Then the fourth position is missionary. This is one of the ancient sex positions practiced by missionaries who were on missions and could only assume this position every time they had sex. Most people still love this position. In this position, a woman lies on her back and a man lies face down on top of her. This position allows intimate communication while having deep penetration. It is simple, elegant, effective, and surprisingly versatile, with adjusting the hips for penetration at different angles. The fifth sex position is what we call flattering. In this position, the woman lies on the bed face down, straightens her legs, raises her hips slightly, and the man penetrates from behind in that flat lying position. This sex position creates a snug fit and very close bonding, so the man's penis will be felt more. The sixth position is what we call ballet dancer. In this sex position, a woman stands on one foot facing a man and wrap her leg around his waist while he holds and supports her. This allows him to penetrate her front to front and thrust as comfortable. This position allows for quality face time and connecting with one's partner. The seventh sex position is what we call cross booty. A man first lies on top of a woman and penetrates her, and then slides his chest and leg off her body to the sides, so that both of their pelvises are in the same position, while their upper and lower parts of their body takes a X position. A woman feels more of a man's body in motion with this sex position, while she can massage his back, butt, or legs as he thrusts. Then the eighth sex position is what we call tabletop. This position allows a woman to lie on the table or any flat surface, and a man penetrates her while standing. She can sit or lean on her back while he enters her. This position is good for face-to-face action, and if they both have different heights, this position can put both of them at the same height. Okay, so the ninth position is what we call snow angel. In this position, a woman lies on her back and a man straddles her facing opposite direction. She lifts her legs up and wraps them around his back to elevate her pelvis so he can enter her. She can grab his butt and add a little massage action to her grip to help him slide up and back. This position allows her to fondle his scrotum while he rubs it against her clit. Then the 10th sex position is what we call face off. In this position, the man sits on a chair or bed corner, and the woman faces him, seated on his lap. This sex position allows the woman to be in control of the angle and depth of the entry and thrust. Since it is a seated position, it is good for marathon sex. These positions and many other sex positions allow both partners to enjoy sex and feel each other more. So changing position during sex or trying new positions in the next sex can be a game changer for many partners in having full sexual experience and enjoying every moment of their sex life up to the level of both satisfaction. Chapter 10. Before and after. Let's look at two important phenomena in this chapter. What happened before and after sex. This is similar to what happened before and after food. These two phenomena establish why sex is food. You bear in mind that in this book, we've established why sex is food, and we are using both direct and comparative analysis to prove our points. Some people may know that sex is food, but may not know why. This book establishes those reasons. Let's start with food. What happens before we eat food? We're hungry, very hungry, or slightly hungry. Okay, so when we are hungry, we don't know any other thing apart from food. We crave food so bad, as if, as we've discussed earlier in this book, hunger is a feeling that makes us crave food and draw us towards it. If we are not hungry, we might not look for food. If we don't look for food, we might die of starvation. Since we get energy and nutrients from food, and these are used to drive our body activities and metabolic processes, so when we lack this energy and nutrients because of not eating food, we deny ourselves of living a healthy life. But just before we eat food, what happens in our system? To understand it, we have to know where hunger comes from or what triggers it. Hunger is a result of depletion of energy stores in our body. Normally when we eat, our body doesn't make use of all the energy it got from the food. It reserves some for the future. That's the one that is stored in the energy stores. So when this storage is depleted, we get signal for refill. That signal is called hunger, and this process happens in a coordinated and organized fashion. There are certain hormones and neurotransmitters that mediate this process and trigger our desire for food. Ghrelin, growth hormone; orexin, that's hypocretin; neuropeptide Y, melanin concentrating hormone; ghrelin and agoutin related peptide are all implicated in triggering our appetite for food. But these chemicals are not just secreted all the time. They respond to decrease in energy stores in our body and increase our craving for food to refill the energy stores. On a more curious note, it is so amazing how we feel so hungry and we're never tired of it. Overfeeding our stomach yesterday does not stop us from feeling hungry today, and the feeling is always fresh and strong. It is inherent and instinctive. We don't have to learn or acquire it. It is important for our health and survival. Not feeling hungry as the way we ought to might affect our food intake, which in turn will affect how much energy and nutrients we have in our system. This in turn could lower our energy and nutrient levels, which will make us susceptible to sickness and infections. Before we eat food, we crave it like crazy. We can't wait to have it in our mouth, especially when it's our favorite food. We go all out. We could fight for it if there's need to, because this is something that directly affects our survival. We have so much craving and attachment for it. But the moment we are full, we don't want it anymore and can easily disconnect from it. But how managed? Just in the space of few minutes, strong feeling of hunger suddenly subsides into feeling of satisfaction, that is satiety. We now feel full and satisfied, are no longer interested in anything that has to do with food, at least for the moment. So what brought these two opposing feelings together? The answer is the need for survival. Man needs to survive by looking for food, and also needs to survive by stopping to eat, because too much intake of food could end up in obesity and death. So the two opposing feelings are brought together to bring moderation and satisfaction. Though there are cases when these feelings are not well regulated and ensue in overeating and obesity. But notwithstanding, the two feelings of hunger and satiety keep us connected to food when needed and disconnected from food when no longer needed. Let's connect this with sex. One of the reasons why sex is food. What is the feeling before and after sex? When we are hungry for sex, we don't know any other thing apart from sex. Just as when we are hungry for food. Some people, especially men, can give out their last dime on it. The feeling is so strong and fresh. Scientific studies have shown that many similar areas in the brain control both food and sex. It stands to reason, therefore, that both are needed for survival, to keep us as a species and to keep us as individuals. When you're hungry for sex, you want to have it by all means. You feel strong connection and craving for opposite sex. People who don't find sex partner find alternative. They ease themselves of the pressure, sexual desire by masturbating. As that was discussed earlier in this book, masturbation is just a way of deceiving the mind to release semen while rubbing the genitals. But the issue at hand now is to understand what happens before and after sex. As the craving is so much before the act that it looks like one would die if didn't do it. Just some minutes after the act is done, it is no longer interesting and the strong desire that was there before plummeted. We call this phase resolution, the time when sexual arousal and pleasure began to fall and eventually become zero. There are 4 phases of sexual intercourse, V's: sexual arousal, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. The first 3 phases always make one to crave sex because of the feeling, and the last phase makes one to feel disconnection from sex. At that moment, depending on individuals, one may feel satisfied and don't want the partner anymore, at least for the moment, or just fall asleep after having a sex that has long been desired. People, especially men, have a way of disconnecting from sex the moment they are done with the act and might no longer want to have it until the next time they are craving for it, just like food. So looking at these 2 phenomena, before and after sex, we've established why sex is food, because we saw the exactitude and similarities between sex and food using the concept of before and after the 2 acts. Chapter 11: Process and Act. Sex, as we know it, is not just an act, it is an act that we must learn how to perform, just as food that we learn how to cook. It is not enough to know that sex is innate and natural, we must learn how to do it and do it well. People who know how to cook food enjoy eating good food. Why? People who know how to cook good food, they actually enjoy eating good food. Yeah, that's right. So why those who don't know struggle with eating bad food or pay expensively to get good food from those who know how to do it? Many people have suffered not enjoying good sex for themselves and their partners. And one of the reasons, as established before, is lack of knowledge. So in this chapter, we will discuss the process and act of sex and see why it is food. There's need for cooking sex just as the way we cook food. Imagine when you want to cook some food, the process you go through. Okay, so you go to the market, you buy the ingredients, you come back home to prepare the food. So the cooking may take longer or shorter time depending on the type of food that you're cooking. So the moment you're done, you serve the food and eat. Depending on how well you prepare the food, it will show in how the food turns out. Now, we have similar scenario with sex. Many people don't know that we cook sex as well. If you are a man and you want to have sex with your wife, you want to make sure you cook it so that she can enjoy it. How? You start early. You know cooking takes time. You have a good talk with her. Give her attention and care. Do things for her and bring her little surprises. You can follow her love language if you know. If you don't, find out. Women love sex. Women love when sex happens because you love them, not you love them because of sex. So to enjoy sex with a woman, it must be well cooked. Men who know how to do this very well always have free dates with their wives, while the ones who don't know struggle with their sex lives. Women can give 1001 complaints why they can't do something, and can also give you 1001 reasons why they will always love to do something. So whichever one you want as a man, you choose. The skill and knowledge that you have about how to cook sex and serve your wife very well will always make her to want to have you and please you. Cooking sex is not limited to men. Women who want their men to enjoy sex with them too also need to learn how to cook it as well. You want to improve your bed skills, your skills on the bed, your dressing and makeup, your body shape and general look, and of course your general disposition and character. Men, apart from looks, are highly attracted to women of good character. Men love value, so anytime they see that in women, they are captivated. As a woman, when you improve your physical, moral, emotional, mental, and social value, men cannot but flood around you. You see, you become the talk of the town just because you changed yourself. Everything has changed around you. Cooking sex is important if we have to enjoy it. With cooking sex, we understand that sex is not just an act. It is done within the. It is not just an act that is done within the four walls of the bedroom or in the eating place only, but everything we do together in love. Since from our definition that sex is not just the intercourse, but a collection of what connects us and differentiates us. Therefore, it stands to reason that what will make us to enjoy the act, sexual intercourse, will be everything that connects us together in terms of sharing love and affection, and differentiates us in terms of our unique qualities and characters. And as we established, our differences are for attraction and our attraction is for conception. So this eventually makes us productive and effective as one spirit in two bodies. That's powerful. Okay, so chapter 12, choices and preferences. Making choices and preferences could be one of the reasons why sex is food. Okay, as we're going to see in this chapter, we make choices with food every time. Depending on how capable we are, we select the kind of food we want to eat based on our appetite. Sometimes we crave savory food. Sometimes we crave sugary foods. And there are times when we crave spicy food, and all of this depends on many factors. Part of the factors is how we're brought up, our upbringing, okay? So the kind of diet that we eat while growing up affects our eating habits when we become adults. The environment where we live also contributes to our choice and preferences of food. If you are used to eating salad at least once a day, salad will be part of your choice anytime you're selecting food, even if you move to another environment. Also, people who love eating spicy food can't rest until they put something spicy in their mouth. All of this comes from the habits that we've already developed while eating food based on the choices and preferences that we've made in the past about food. Let's look at sex. The kind of mindset and understanding that you had about sex while growing up affect the choices that you make with it. And just as food, your sex habits come from the environment and what you've learned by yourself. For instance, somebody might crave having oral sex while the other person might abhor it. One person might love certain sex position while the other person might dislike it. It doesn't mean the choices are bad, it just means individual's choice is based on their sexual habits. You see? So it's easier to change actions, but not habits. Once something becomes your habit, it has already gone down to the level of your subconscious mind, wherein you are no longer consciously in control of it. So you take decisions passively and easily. But to change your habit, you've got to be active and serious about it, because it will require a lot of effort and persistence. And the moment a new habit is formed, it becomes easier to make choice or decision in line of your habit. Our sex habits are the product of the choices and preferences that we've made in the past about sex. For some of us, these choices are made passively and by default. we inculcated these habits. For instance, growing up in an environment where people don't like talking about sex or bringing up sexual matters in an open discussion will mean such person will be reserved about sexual matters, even if they move to another environment. Having learned some wrong things about sex, maybe through social media or other media outlets, individuals began to frame their mind in that direction, and that eventually become their sex habits. If children have witnessed their parents always fighting over sexual matters, and the mother is not always happy when the father is having sex with her, will mean to the children that sex is not what can be enjoyed but endured with fights and struggles. Until the children adopt new mindsets, this wrong mindset could as well become their sex habits later in future with their spouse. This is more reason why parents must show their children good sex behavior and give them comprehensive sex education. So this is a very important concept. Now, comprehensive sex education is a form of education in which case you educate your children about everything on sex. You see, you're not hiding anything. You're not just preaching abstinence. You're telling them about sex, what sex is all about, how you can enjoy it, how pleasurable it is, and how to protect yourself against diseases, against sexually transmitted diseases, and some other risks associated with it, like unwanted pregnancy and some other problems. So you want to share with your children, you want to educate your children about sex education. That is comprehensive. You want to make it comprehensive. You want it to just put all the cards on the table and let them see for themselves and make their own choice without imposing any ideology or anything about sex on them, right? Very important concept that we gotta understand. Okay, so let's continue. Yeah, actually, by the way, that was like out of the book. I just discussed that briefly. Okay, so there's no point having sex with someone with whom you're not on the same page. As a matter of fact, for young people, before you get married, you must discuss extensively your sexual choices and preferences with your partner. You must understand each other's sex habits. It doesn't mean someone has been having sex. It just means everyone has already programmed sex behavior and the way they will respond to sex in different situations, which they might have learned by default or intentionally. Sex matters have been one of the major causes of divorce in marriages, partly because the partners have different sex habits and behaviors which are difficult to compromise, so lead to serious misunderstanding. Apart from men being more sexually active than women, that's sexual kinkiness. Sexual kinkiness like always wants to explore new things about sex. This being sexually kinky. Yeah, it's a very kind of weird, behavior connected with sex. Yeah, sometimes just show some weird behavior. That being sexually kinky. Just want to try new things, want to try different things, explore new things about sex, and going on sexual escapades. Could all these things could actually put the other partner off, who is not sexually kinky, or worse still, want to file for divorce. You see, so sex is always a sensitive matter to discuss, and so if one doesn't have an open and learning mind, it might be difficult to change one's sex habits and learn new things. For some people, sex is not just about pleasure. It's not about pleasure. It is for making babies. You see, for some people, that's just their own ideology. Sex it's not for pleasure. They don't connect pleasure with sex. For them, it's just okay. Let's just make babies. You see, and so they have sex with stress and don't care whether it's comfortable or satisfactory for their partner or not. You see, that's the problem. Because if they are not looking at the pleasure, the other aspect of sex, if all they are looking at is just making babies, then it's gonna be with struggles and difficulties. You see, so they don't even care about their partner, whether their partner is comfortable or not, because they know they're just doing it for making babies. You see, not for them to enjoy it. You see, so some use religion and traditional belief to cover up their ignorance. You see, but sex is never about those things, but about individuals and their choices. Everyone has right to choose what they want, and that is the fundamental right that the Creator has given every human being. But to come with the ideology of religion and culture to override individuals' choice is not permissible by God and humanity. You see, that is why to be on the same page when it comes to sexual matters with your partner is very important. When it comes to this sexual injustice, women are usually at the receiving end, especially in many developing countries. They are being denied their right to choose what they want as pertaining to sex, and could easily be labeled sluts if, by chance, they express their sexual interest and desire. You see, what could be termed as slut shaming. Behaviors such as sexual bullying, sexual abuse, and victim blaming are still very much rampant in certain parts of the world, and women have been the victims in most cases. You see, it's so sad. But who said that sex is only for men or should only be enjoyed by men when it is two people that are having it? Is that not cheating or an unfair behavior? Inasmuch as we all have feelings and desires, and we crave sex and food as our basic human instincts, even though we have different levels of desires and interests, it is all our right to enjoy them and feel satisfied without any feeling of shame or apology. Very important, very important. Alright. Okay, so chapter 13, distractions. In this last chapter, we want to look at distractions on the basis of why sex is food. Throughout this book, we've explored different areas of sex in connection with food. Sex is not just connected with the physical food that we eat, as we've seen, but it is food in the literal sense of it. It gives us all that food gives and exemplifies all what food is all about. So in this chapter, we'll look at distractions vis-a-vis sex and food. As some of us might have experienced, there could be distractions during having sex, just as the way we could be distracted during eating food. These distractions could be external or internal. The external distractions come from our immediate environment and surrounding, while internal distractions come from what happens inside of us, such as our thoughts and feelings. Alright, so let's start with the first, external distractions. If you are in an environment where there is noise or excessive sounds, that may distract you and make you not to enjoy sex with your partner. Or also if there is air pollution, excessively cold or hot weather, messy room, dirt and refugees around, all these could be distractions. Okay? Another important distraction could be from your partner if your partner has body odor or poor body hygiene. So that may irritate and distract you. This challenge is usually common among men because they have higher metabolic rate and more tendency to take less care of their body because of their carefree nature. You see, women on the other hand are usually at the receiving end and don't find this funny most of the time because many of them are actually sensitive to smell. So, and poor body hygiene easily puts them off. Some of them may not talk about it to their men because they would not want them to feel bad. But on a lighter note after sex, okay, come on, it should be mentioned to them. You see, women, tell men about these things so that they will change. Okay, so there are some women too who are not so hygienic body wise. They don't clean up their private parts and don't shave to remove all the dirty hairs. They just assume those places will be clean on their own. Worse still, they don't regularly wash their underwears and they wear dirty clothes. All this can be a strong turn-off for men who are hygienic and will not want transmission of body infections. Poor body hygiene is not tolerable for any of the sexes and must be avoided by all means as it could be a major distraction during sex. A distraction can be absence of physical comfort, like a good bed, pillows, spread sheets, clean floor, chair, and other furniture that could help having a good sex at different positions. So when normal things that you just expect to be in the room are not present, that could be a distraction, as it might bring physical discomfort or pains. Also, absence of lubricating and protective materials could be a distraction during sex. Some women who are afraid of getting pregnant and they see their partner not wearing condom could easily get distracted. So getting a good condom at that moment will remove that distraction. Having sex without adequate lubrication in the genitals could also be a distraction, as that can cause friction and then cause pain. Women experience pains when there's too much friction on the wall of their vagina, as the penis is penetrated without lubrication. Apart from normal secretions that come from the glands in the vaginal wall, lubricants can be used to reduce the friction and make thrusting and other movement during sex easy. Physical pain is a distraction during sex, so you want to avoid it at all costs. You want to let the muscle relax, especially the ones at the limbs. You want to be comfortable with your breathing and make sure there is adequate ventilation and fresh air. You also want to be comfortable with all the moves and positions that you assume with your partner during sex. All of these are important. Okay, so let's look at the other part of distraction. That's the internal distractions. The internal distractions include distracting thoughts and feelings. Some of them we have been alluded to them in the course of this book. As a matter of fact, both internal and external distractions are connected, and one can be influenced by the presence of the other. For instance, the presence of bad odor, that's external distraction, could make a partner to start feeling irritated. That is internal distraction. Whereas irritation could have happened on its own without any external distraction of smelling bad, of bad body odor, right? But the presence of the external distractions influences the presence of the internal distraction. You see, so this happens in most cases, or sometimes. There could be some thoughts that could distract one during sex, like remembering a bad experience, thinking of the debts that you're owing, or other financial problems with self-esteem and self-identity, thinking of your incomplete project, thinking about the loss of your loved one, remembering some disputes and misunderstanding that you had with your partner or another person, and so on. Some of these feelings could be negative or positive. Most times they are negative, because positive feelings cause little or no distractions, while negative feelings are the culprits of internal distractions during sex. Some of the negative feelings are the feeling tired, weak, feeling disgusted, feeling irritated, feeling worried, feeling anxious, feeling disturbed, feeling afraid, feeling intimidated, feeling dishonest, feeling cheated, feeling angry, feeling hungry, feeling sad, feeling oppressed, feeling careless, feeling unappreciated, feeling less valued, feeling heavy, feeling emotional pains, feeling guilt, feeling unworthy, feeling immoral, feeling unholy, feeling betrayed, feeling unloved, feeling underrated, feeling used, feeling untrustworthy, feeling untrusted, feeling uncommitted, feeling unstable, feeling irrational, feeling awkward, feeling hated, feeling envy, feeling cheated, feeling jealous, feeling prejudiced, feeling discriminated, feeling isolated, feeling not able to express, and so on. You see, there's so many feelings that can put partners off during sex, especially women, as naturally their system is so sensitive and volatile to people and their surroundings. Meanwhile, depending on the location or environment, you may not be able to prevent or avoid all these distractions, but you can sure minimize them and control the ones that you can. Distractions during sex don't make us enjoy it, just as distractions during food don't make us enjoy it as well. So some people talk while eating, and they are comfortable with it, while some other people are not comfortable with talking while eating. This same thing is applicable to sex. Some people might be comfortable with talking while having sex, while some other people might not like that idea. Though talking during sex can be really romantic and soothing, especially when both of you are talking about how you are enjoying the intercourse. What some people could call dirty talks. Okay, maybe you've had the experience before too. You just engage in dirty talks with your partner. You're just talking about how you're enjoying the sex, how you're enjoying the penetration, and the caressing, and the rubbing, and the licking, and all kind of things that we do during sex, right? So this will make both partners appreciate each other more and know how to satisfy one another. Each partner will actually know how and where to stimulate to give their partner maximum pleasure, which is what we want during sex anyways. There's no point having sex if there's no room for enjoyment and satisfaction. It is not enough to just want to have sex. We must see to appreciate everything about it. If the Creator doesn't want us to enjoy sex, He wouldn't have connected pleasure with it. Why must it be that the most sweetest and the most pleasurable feeling we will always have as human beings is sex? It means there's a purpose for it, and as we've established in this book, the purpose of sex is not limited to just giving birth, but to share love, bond more, heal more, and live more. Inasmuch as we want to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, we must understand that the journey starts from ourselves, our love sharing and satisfaction. We should seek to satisfy one another first and share love before we bring up the third person into this world, that is giving birth to a child. I'm sure if this is a mantra, many of the couples will not be divorcing like the way they do, because they will understand that it is when they are together that they can have fruitful and productive family. And that starts from sharing love during sex and appreciating one another. There's no point rushing into giving birth when the couple is not well grounded in love and satisfaction. Very important. As we've established in this book, sex connects us to one another. It makes us appreciate our differences and become attracted to one another because of those differences. So, why should those differences become a nightmare? Why should we hate each other because of those differences? It must be that we've not known and appreciated that enough, and it's high time we did. It's easier to fall in love during sex and also fall out of love during sex. So we choose the one we want. If we fall in love during sex, the love will multiply. If we fall out of love during sex, the love will diminish, and we begin to hate on each other and looking for faults. But a good sex is grounded in love. The end of the book. I hope you enjoyed this book. If you enjoyed, so make sure you like the audiobook, and you can also order your own copy from Amazon. Say just type "Why Sex is Food" by PIENS. You will get a copy of the book. You can read it. And then please remember to post your review on Amazon, so that more people can read it and then be also motivated to go get their own copy as well. Alright, so before we go, let me quickly mention a few things. Important notice: do you have an idea? Do you have something you're passionate about? Do you have an experience worth sharing? If your answer is yes, then you are qualified to have your own book. So you don't need to be a writer, you just need to be an author. Yeah. So contact me at sopiensofgod@gmail.com. Let's make your book happen. And then remember, one of the best ways that you can add value to your world is to share and document your ideas. Take action now. About the book. Why Sex is Food is a book that outlines unconventional wisdom on sex. It describes the purpose and pleasure of sex using its food nature. We know food gives us energy and nutrients, and it is critical for our survival. Sex gives us energy and nutrients as well, and it's indispensable for our survival and perpetuation of our species. From this book, you will understand why sex is food and why it is not just for conception but also for connection. You will understand the capacity of sex to foster bond, love, and perpetuation of our species on Earth. You will also understand the indispensability of sex that has made its influence so strong on us, and how it has become our strongest feeling and desire, and what we cannot but express on the basis of its beautiful purpose and pleasure. You will definitely love this book. Great. About the author. PIENS is an insightful writer and leader. He explores knowledge and shares it. He is a specialist on human health and works on areas of prevention. He has one singular mantra that penetrates all his course, which is prevention is not only better than cure, it is safer, easier, and faster than cure.